fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab your betting chips and cans of Diet Coke because today we're discussing The Lightning Thief, Chapter 5, I Play Pinochle with a Horse. Exciting!
I did have to look up how to pronounce Pinochle because I realized in my head...
How did I do?
I've pronounced it Pinochle, and I found a bunch of different... There were like those, those random little YouTube videos that's like 17 seconds long, and the person goes, this is how to pronounce whatever the word is.
Yes.
There were like 3 different ones of those, and they all said them differently, but one of them did pronounce it as Pinochle, and so I went, great, okay, that's it.
Let's go with that, because that's how I said it, so...
But I also looked up the origin of the game, so I've got some fun facts.
Oh, when we get there.
Well, I mean, we can do it now, or
sure.
we can wait till we get
It's
there.
in the title.
It is in the title. So supposedly it was, and this is from the quickest Google search, so I could be missing information, but historically was brought to the United States from German immigrants who adapted a French card game by a different name. So origins might be French, I think.
Cool. So what I like about that is we're about to learn about how the West has traveled, and I feel like what you just referenced feels like an example of some of the countries that they mentioned.
Totally. Yeah.
Process. So
and like a card game followed them as the gods came to the US.
Love. Absolutely love that. Well, I'm excited. I looked up a little bit about Pinochle for not the origins, but other parts of it for later in the chapter. So we will get there.
So
the
many
most exciting bit
today
of the whole chapter is the card game. Who will win the card game? We did find out.
We do. So we begin with Percy, still kind of out of it. Having weird dreams, basically coming in and out of consciousness because he's recovering from his first real, very intense monster fight where he sustained injuries and so
pulled some heroic moves. He's dealing with grief. Like there's a lot going on for him right now.
Yeah. So he has many weird dreams full of barnyard animals, which I just think is so funny. Yes. And he says, most of them wanted to kill me, the rest wanted food. And I feel like this is his brain processing, I fought a minotaur, and my friend is a satyr.
Yep. I was thinking, like, worst petting zoo ever kind of experience. Like, he's just moving through the petting zoo and, like, alternately getting eaten or being asked to provide food.
Yeah. And so then he kind of says that he's like wakes up several times, but what he heard and saw doesn't make any sense to him. And he remembers lying in a soft bed and being spoon-fed something that tasted like buttered popcorn, only it was pudding.
Ambrosia.
And it was the girl with the curly blonde hair, who fed it to him and apparently smirked as she scraped drips off his chin with the spoon, which just felt so classic and so funny, like she's gone from being like he's the one, he must be, to then kind of just like laughing at him for
what a doofus.
Not being fully conscious, not being able to swallow pudding, which kind of makes sense.
I mean, Annabeth doesn't drop her standards for any reason. Like, it doesn't matter if you're barely conscious. Like, the standards are high.
Absolutely.
The perfectionism is there. We're not dropping that.
No.
I think it's funny, too, because it kind of, later it's like, Chiron's like, Annabeth nursed you to health. And I think it's a fun sort of flipping it on its head for this trope of, like, the girl who, like, you know, takes care of you when you're sick and, you know, like, I don't know. that you stumbled onto her farm or whatever, like kind of book, kind of like trope.
Like a Western.
Yeah, like this is kind of like a Western. Yeah. But it's really, she's just like, ugh, like she's just over it the whole time. Like, it's not really that nurturing.
Yeah.
Well, which and I do like.
The only reason why she is nursing back to health is because she wants to know what he knows.
Yeah.
And she's like dying to find out.
She's practically like holding him by the neck, like, tell me the information. Like, you can't die because you have details. And yet he does not.
He does not.
Yeah, she's like, what will happen at the summer solstice? What's going on? What was stolen? We only have a few weeks.
Which I think what was stolen is our first mention, if I'm correct.
Well,
I
think that Mrs. Dodds said something about something being taken.
Back.
So I think we know something has been taken. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I forgot about that.
We do know that. But I love that she's straight to the point. She's not messing around.
No.
We are Detective Annabeth Chase, and we are getting to the bottom of this right now.
Yeah. Yes. And I think knowing later on when you kind of find out that like she hasn't been able to go on a quest and that she's kind of been given this like semi-prophecy of like there will be someone who shows up at camp and then you will be able to go on a quest. Then like I think also makes me as the reader and rereading it really understand why she's just like desperate, totally. Like this strange 12-year-old boy shows up and so she's immediately like this he must be the one. This has to be
get me out there. I want to prove myself. Immediately. And then it's hilarious because Percy's trying to just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I am semi-conscious. I don't even know what day it is, like where I am. And when someone knocks on the door, she just fills his mouth with pudding. She's just like trying to get information. It's almost like a cartoon. You could just imagine. I'm just like, Annabeth. Like, oh, it's rough.
But then, so he goes to sleep after she leaves, wakes up again, and then we meet, though we don't have his name yet, Argus.
I know.
Who's described as a husky blonde dude like a surfer, stood in the corner of the bedroom keeping watch over me. He had blue eyes, at least a dozen of them, on his cheeks, his forehead, the backs of his hands. Which,
Chris, you have no idea how many eyes. A dozen. I'm like, that's a drop in the bucket.
More than...
Just wait.
He's got more than a dozen.
Just wait.
But I kind of love that we get this little introduction to him now, and that he's there just literally keeping many eyes on Percy.
Yeah. I feel like that's perfect for like kind of a fever dream where you don't know what's happening.
Absolutely.
You just like your eyes barely open. And it's like, when you go cross-eyed, like sometimes you can like see double of things.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be so trippy to be like half asleep and then you look and you're like, that's a lot of eyes. And you just go back to sleep.
Yep.
Like I definitely dreamed that. Like I dreamed about the animals, chasing me. Cause dang. And then somebody moves him out front.
Yeah.
Which is so, I don't know if I like clocked that before, but like someone, for whatever reason, takes him out of the bed and to the front sitting in a chair.
I know. I had that exact same thought. I was like, who moved him? Why did they move him? Like, did they kind of have a sense that he'd probably be waking up now? Or was it just them being like, he's, been lying in bed long enough, he can go to a chair on the porch.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And like who did that? Like who carried him,
Probably Argus.
Curious. Probably Argus.
Realistically.
Right.
Probably him.
He could do it by himself.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting. So he's sitting on a deck chair on a huge porch, and I just love the description. This is kind of our first description of like the vibes at Camp Half-Blood. Gazing across a meadow at green hills in the distance, the breeze smelled like strawberries. There was a blanket over my legs and a pillow behind my neck, and it'll describe it more later, but it's just such a vibe. I'm like, I want to sit on that porch with nothing to do on a Saturday and just soak it in.
Yeah. Like, for a camp where you're trained how to defeat monsters, it's remarkably peaceful and calm.
True facts.
You know, and like this description feels like, oh, this is your little oasis, like retreat. You know, retreat where you get to be calm and everything's lovely and peaceful, nothing scary happens, you know. And then like cut to the like volcano rock wall, and
exactly.
They're training
to the death. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, this description, I was like, oh gosh, I just want to be transported there, to this lovely porch.
Well, and then it's very, very contrasted with the description of how Percy is feeling, which is kind of interesting. I was trying to figure out, like, why is his mouth in such bad shape based on what happened? Do you know what I mean?
I think because, so when I was wondering the same thing too, but I was remembering back to that description when he's on the Minotaur, and he basically says, like, he wants to yell for Grover, but he knows if he opened his mouth, he'd like bite his own tongue off. Sure. It made me feel like he was probably either clenching a ton, or basically just
he did sort of chew on it somehow.
Or just even getting like shaken around, probably like jaw kind of like crashed against itself, you know, like, and he does like, he hits his head on the rock. Like, there's just a lot of stuff happening to his head that I was like, okay, I think this kind of makes sense that'd be a very banged up.
Because I also know that ambrosia and nectar, if you're not a full god, can mess you up. And so I was also wondering, like, if we're ever going to experience any dry mouth from nectar in the ambrosia. Well, I guess it was ambrosia first so far. We haven't had the nectar yet, but I don't know. I was like, is that adding to it in any way? Like, it's supposed to heal you, but like, could it overdo it? I don't know.
Well, I remember there is... Oh my gosh, I cannot for the life of me remember which book it is, but we do get a description of, and I think it's Percy kind of having like just a little bit too much, and I think he feels like he's about to combust, essentially. Yeah. And so, I wonder if there is maybe a description of like your mouth kind of being on fire. Like if this maybe also is, in order to heal him, they maybe gave him a little extra. Right, and so maybe it's kind of like both together, like, injuries are healing, but then also he had some extra ambrosia, and so that's why. Kind of,
because I mean, Annabeth is just like shoveling it in at some point there, because he says, my mouth felt like a scorpion had been using it for a nest. My tongue was dry and nasty, and every one of my teeth hurt. I mean, that sounds miserable. Also, interesting reference to a scorpion given the end of the book, so I thought that was kind of a fun little reference. Like when we first get to camp, we have this feeling.
Totally.
But so anyway, I think it'll be interesting to track some of the other ambrosia eating and see if like a dry mouth or any kind of like tingling or anything like that, kind of accompanies it. But on the table next to him is a tall drink that looked like iced apple juice with a green straw and a paper parasol stuck through a maraschino cherry, which adorable. Like, did Argus make this too? I want to think that Argus made this too. Yeah. It's adorable. Like, it's very cute. To dress up a cup of nectar to this extent. I mean, we just know Mr. D didn't make it. That's all we know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like, so cute. Like,
I can fully imagine, because Argus like does not speak, and so I feel like I can fully imagine him being that. Yeah, he's like this like big burly man covered in eyes who then goes, I put the little straw with the little umbrella in the drink.
I was just like imagining holding a little parasol. I just had an image of like what it would be like to have a POV of all the different eyes of Argus, like seeing the parasol from the eye on the hand, and then seeing it from, like if you could just like switch. And I just wonder how he takes in information with all of those eyes, like what it would be like. Is it fly-like almost, because they have that sort of
or does he basically just have like a 360 camera going
at like all
times essentially? But some of them, like when he's wearing like a shirt, for example, like But I wonder...
Does he close them?
I was just wondering that. Like, can he close them? Because... But I'm remembering a description where it says that, like, they all blink together in unison. Oh, but maybe, like, with our eyes, how you can, like, kind of close one and leave the other open. Maybe he can do that.
Yeah. We all have different skill levels at that.
Yeah, because otherwise, gosh, just, like, a shirt over your eyes would be
you're just, like, looking at
uncomfortable.
fabric.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think it'd be interesting to like experience that perspective.
If he got allergies, imagine just like a million eye drops.
Yeah, because I think there's a time where like he's getting emotional.
He cries.
And it's like, it's like he's gonna create a river with his tears or something.
Yes.
Oh, that would be the worst. That would be like having hives all over your whole body.
Yeah.
To have allergies if you had eyes. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh. Hopefully he doesn't have allergies. I hope for
I think as like an immortal being,
that's true.
Or semi, I think hopefully he gets a pass on allergies, but
I hope so.
So many eye
drops.
That
would be rough. So many eye drops. You just have a bath of eye drops, so you just sort of fully submerge in
Honestly, that's what you'd have to do, because you wouldn't even be able to reach all of your eyes. You'd have to have someone else help you with like the ones on your back.
I feel like that also means you couldn't take a regular bath, because you would just get soap in all your eyes. So you'd have to only do like pure water or something.
Right.
Or eye drops.
That is a question. How does Argus shower?
How does Argus shower? Maybe just like baby shampoo that doesn't hurt your eyes.
Oh yeah, baby
shampoo.
Have,
like bottles of baby shampoo.
Yeah. Little bottles of Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo.
Yeah. Johnson & Johnson is like Argus's sponsor.
Yeah. Wait, Johnson & Johnson started by demigods. Actually, maybe they were like friends with Argus, right?
Well,
and started it so
Mr.
that Argus
D is going
could...
to mistake Percy's last name for Johnson. At least once.
He will. He will.
It's on the mind. It's on the brain.
Okay, that's another fun little theory. Johnson & Johnson actually started by demigods. So that Argus could take a shower.
Yep. He hadn't showered in like millennia, and they were like, we solved it for you.
They're like, we need to invent a shampoo that will not hurt your eyes.
And then it like happens to work for babies, so then they like got rich.
Yep. Yeah. Fully.
Just by accident. I love that. I could literally go. My brain is like writing the story as we're talking, and I'm like, no, but we're reading an actual story. I know. I was like, now
to the actual real text.
Yeah. Because I'm like thinking of these demigods and like, how did they meet Argus? And I'm just going down the rabbit hole.
No, I know. And then like, who is their demigod parent?
Totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait. Okay. No. We have to... it is healing related, though, so that's a thought.
But I feel like there's something to me, there feels something Hermes-esque about kind of like accidentally, like creating something that accidentally becomes like an empire,
like a bestseller. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, if it's multiple demigods, like one of them could be healing, like one of them
could
be more Apollo, and one of them could be Hermes. I think an Apollo Hermes team up is a really solid demigod team up.
Yeah.
They would be hilarious.
Oh yeah, so much fun.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
to be
we'll
circle back.
We'll explore. We'll circle back. But now, returning to the actual book that we're here
the actual book that we're actually reading, that's actually in front of us. This all started because we're about to drink some nectar for the first time. Percy almost drops the glass. And granted, in this whole episode, we don't get a reference to ambrosia or nectar by name.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why I didn't put it in the intro. Because we don't know what that is yet.
Right. We technically don't know. We have not been told.
We have not been told. This is
my kind of theme for this chapter was this is like a partial reveal. We're getting, we are getting information, but there is still just so much that is like and we'll get to it.
Faucet of information. Yeah. Like, we haven't actually turned it on yet.
Because even when Percy drinks it and Grover asks him what it tastes like, he doesn't explain what Grover makes it weird.
Grover definitely makes it weird.
Camp Half-Blood. You can tell him.
Yep. Well, yes, there's a few moments like that. And, I don't know. Percy has a lot of trust to just be like drinking things and
totally. Yeah.
And, like, we don't even know where we are. But yeah, Grover is already making it a little weird because Percy almost drops it and Grover's just like careful. Like he's just like leaning against the porch railing. Like he hasn't even said hi. He's just watching Percy wake up and struggle with his glass.
It very much, this description of initially that Grover was leaning against the porch railing feels very much like a cool guy intro.
Yes, exactly.
You know, but then you get looking like he hadn't slept in a week and you're like, okay, that's the Grover that I know and love. You know?
Yeah. I know. It's like he has this cool moment for like half a second and then he's like,
Yeah.
But we get the uniform, the Camp Half-Blood uniform.
We do.
Is very
we
exciting.
get the blue jeans and the orange t-shirt. Also, first time my brain fully processed that Grover's wearing Converse high tops, which just feels
I know, same.
so funny.
I mean, I guess that maybe helps to keep the ankle.
Yes.
So that the hoof can stay in there more easily, unless he's stamping angrily, which I was like, has he never stamped angrily before? Like at school? But we get Camp Half-Blood by name in all caps, which is exciting on the t-shirt.
It's very exciting. Yes.
And, you know, Percy is still reasoning it out. He's like, maybe, hold out. Like, let me just put this out there. Let me just give you this pitch. Maybe it's not real. I didn't just fight a Minotaur. Maybe it was a nightmare. Maybe my mom's okay. We're still on vacation. We stopped here at this big house, which I love that he calls it a big house because it's the big house, for some reason. And I'm like, he is still trying to make it make sense. I think that's hilarious.
And I also think here it's a combo of he's still trying to make everything make sense and also is very much in that denial stage of my mom is, I did not watch my mom die.
Of course.
And so kind of rationing it like, okay, we just stopped here, but we're still on vacation and everything's fine because Grover's wearing jeans and I'm not seeing hooves. So it was maybe just a nightmare, you know?
Yeah, I mean, anything to make his mom not be dead, like fully understandable. But just, you know, he said he didn't have a good imagination, and I still continue to assert that is false.
He does.
Because he's doing a good job here. And then Grover says, you saved my life. The least I could do, I went back to the hill. I thought you might want this. And he reverently places the shoebox in Percy's lap. And inside, it's a black and white bull's horn, the base jagged from being broken off, and the tip splattered with dried blood. And Percy realizes it was not a nightmare. Yeah.
What really stood out to me in that description was saying that Grover reverently placed the shoebox. Like it was this like sacred thing. Because it kind of in a way is, and then you find that other campers kind of treat it with like a great deal of importance. But it was very interesting. It kind of felt like, especially because that line is a sentence on its own, not like in a larger paragraph, it felt like everything kind of slowed down for a second, and it was just this moment of Grover like handing this sacred thing off to Percy with like, this is of great importance. That really
I feel like Grover is like very respectful. Like he is respectful and admiring of heroes, and of course of like his best friend who is a hero. And I think it's almost like Percy's first moment of experiencing someone else responding to him that way, because I don't think anyone has reverently done anything toward him ever before this from what he's described. And it's like an interesting, you know, there's a somber a somberness to it that I think matches also the consequences of getting this bull's horn, or of that interaction, which is his mom disappearing into light. And from what he is aware of, and everyone else seems to be aware of, dying.
Right. Yeah.
And then he says the Minotaur, and I love Defiant Percy. Always, I'm into it. Like, let's go. Because Grover's like, Percy, it isn't a good idea. And Percy's like, that's what they call him in the Greek myths, isn't it? And he's demanding the Minotaur, half man, half bull. And I think it's like, yeah, Percy's like, no more bull from y'all.
Yeah.
Like, I am saying things, even though I know I've been told not to, because we are not playing this game anymore.
Yeah, and this felt like kind of like, we have seen Defiant Percy, but I feel like this is the kind of first real time where, in this context of the world of mythology, this is his first time in what will be a very, very long time of him being like, I'm not playing by your rules. I'm not, like, you tell me I can't say names, I don't really care. Like, right now, I need to say, it's the Minotaur, right? That's what just happened. That's just what killed my mom. Like, I'm not beating around this bush, and I'm not playing by your rules of, oh no, hush, hush, I can't say this name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, they keep saying, like, names have power, right? And I think that's true, but it's also, like, naming the Minotaur as the Minotaur, as this, like, you just killed my mom. Like, that is a powerful thing to do. So it's like, names have power, and you can use that, or you can acknowledge that in the way of, like, it's not just not saying it as, like, respectful or more safe or whatever, but it's like using it is powerful as well, to name what happened and acknowledge it.
Absolutely. Well, and they continue, like, Percy has yet to be told actually why it, like, how specifically names have power and what it genuinely means. Like, what are the true consequences of saying like a monster's actual name. Like, no one has actually explained that to him yet.
Also,
people just keep on saying names have power, and there's this chapter just names have a great deal of power, and they say it like ominously but without any specificity around what does it mean. So when you say a name, this is what happens.
It's like in this chapter it's just like thunder might rumble, and you're like, okay, am I supposed to be scared? Like, if you don't even know what to believe yet, it's like, and it can't even rain in Camp Half-Blood, so what's Zeus gonna do? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
he's just gonna thunder a little bit and be
he's
like,
just gonna be like,
I'm angry.
I'm angry.
yeah.
Also later, I'm like, he's always listening. I like, doesn't he have better things to do than just like listen in on what's going on at Camp Half-Blood? It's like his reality TV that he can't quit. He's just like into the gossip of what's happening. I'm like, Zeus, you're an all-powerful being. Don't you have something else to do with your time than clock like references, you know? Or maybe he's just self-obsessed. I don't know. We know that.
Feel like, I think he's probably just self-obsessed, but I just had a really fun time in my brain imagining Zeus as just kind of like a full-on chismosa who's just like,
100%.
you know, like got like always ready for who's talking about what, who's talking about me, what's happening, I want to know, like...
This whole thing is just like a social experiment that he put. He's like, haha, Dionysus, like, you have to be, let's just see what happens if you're in charge, and this is here, this is there, like, who's talking with who, who's dating who. Yeah, I feel like he cares. I feel like he would act like he doesn't care, but he cares.
Fully. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Fully and completely.
He's appeared enough times just in these first 5 chapters between like ominous thunder rumblings and full-on rainstorms that it's like, he's plugged in. He's not going outside and touching grass. He is very much online, connected to what's happening with all these demigods.
He's fully online. Grover's uncomfortable about Percy naming the Minotaur, but and he does not answer. He just shifts uncomfortably.
Yeah.
But he says, "You've been out for 2 days. How much do you remember?" And I'm like, if Percy doesn't remember it, what does Grover say? Does Grover tell him what happened?
Yeah.
But Percy says, "My mom, is she really?" And then Grover just looks down. And he is going to sort of acknowledge it. But first, oh my gosh, we get more description of Camp Half-Blood that makes you just want to go there right now, today, this second. There were groves of trees, a winding stream, acres of strawberries spread out under the blue sky. The valley was surrounded by rolling hills, and the tallest one, directly in front of us, was the one with the huge pine tree on top. Talia, just we're getting to
R.I.P. for now, but we're
R.I.P. for now. Even that looked beautiful in the sunlight, which I love that, like, later he could look back and be like, dang, I called Talia beautiful. Like, when they're in their kind of, like, competition later. It's like, man, I didn't know. But I love this line because I think it's so, it's such a good representation of how grief can feel. Because he says, my mother was gone. The whole world should be black and cold. Nothing should look beautiful. And I'm just like, yeah, that's grief. Like, nothing should be beautiful when you're this sad, you know?
It's like the world, everything should stop and feel how I'm feeling. 'Cause it's like Percy's world has just fallen apart. His mom, the one constant, the one thing he could always rely on in his life, is now gone. And so the fact that not only is the world still turning, but it's beautiful and it's lovely, and he's overlooking this meadow that's just gorgeous. Of course, he's like, this is wrong. Everything should look and feel how I'm feeling because my world has irrevocably changed.
And what he's looking at is like life. Like he's looking at this place that is so full of life. It's like strawberries and grass and trees and fields, and you know. I think that just does feel so in contrast to mourning a death. And that's a really hard contrast. And Grover's feeling it too. He's sniffling because he's a sweetheart. He says, I'm sorry, I'm a failure. I'm the worst satyr in the world. And I'm like,
which is just
Grover needs affirmations.
I know. Like, also, just the like taking in that basically the weight of successfully bringing a demigod to camp lies on like one satyr's shoulders. You know, rough. Like that's so much to like put on just one being, even though I know that you know that's like the training and the purpose, and then the line where they say there's a satyr at every school. I'm like, oh my god, that's so many satyrs.
That's a lot of satyrs.
There's a lot of satyrs out in the world, you know, but just that's so much
an army
stress
of satyrs.
And pressure to really, not only do you feel emotionally like someone's life is in your hands, but it kind of is literally, because monsters will be coming for them who want to kill them, and as a keeper, as a protector, it's your job to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's literally like life and death situations. And now this is the second time Grover has had a child of the big three. So of course
I know he has the
both
worst
of those times were the
ever.
most intense. You know. So it's
when he
just,
doesn't
it's
know that each
heartbreaking.
time.
Yeah.
Well, and like here's the thing, Percy's alive, so like Grover actually didn't fail.
Right.
Obviously, you know, he's feeling the loss of Sally and like putting that responsibility on himself. But ask the question, if Grover hadn't shown up at the beach house when he did to warn them of the Minotaur and get them all in the car, like where would they be? Would Percy have made it to camp? Like,
probably
I don't
not.
know. You know, like Sally did wake up and was like hurricane, but I don't know if they would have just like gone running. Grover really kicks that into gear. So there's a world where we could say that Grover's actions do get Percy to camp safely.
Absolutely.
In which case he did not fail. The primary task.
Well, and if Grover hadn't been there, yes, Sally woke up and said hurricane, but she wouldn't have, in all likelihood, driven straight to camp. She only drove straight to camp because Grover said there's a Minotaur. Like,
exactly.
They may have still jumped in the car, but they probably would not have driven to camp. They would have probably just driven back to the city, you know?
Yeah, because Sally wasn't into the idea of camp at that point.
Right. And at that point didn't know that camp had gone from something she was pushing off to something she could no longer, like, push off anymore.
She doesn't even know what
had
happened
to urgently
at school.
happen. Right.
She wouldn't know there's a Minotaur coming. So,
I
don't know. I'm like, I think he's being too hard on himself, per usual,
he really
always.
is. Yeah.
And I'm just like, we need affirmations for Grover. We need to support his self-esteem. Like, We just need that. His arc, I do love his arc over time.
Me too.
But here's where he moans and stomps his foot so hard.
Yeah.
And then the line is that it came off. I mean, the Converse high top came off.
Yeah.
Because it would be kind of weird at first. Like, you're not just used to people's, like, entire feet, like, falling off randomly.
Right.
So
yeah.
it would be really, really trippy. And then we get a little inside look into, like, the magic behind the fakery here. The inside was filled with styrofoam except for a hoof-shaped hole. And I'm like, do they make this as a insert you can get online? Or is Grover carving styrofoam into his feet? And by that I mean definitely eating out the hole himself and
fully
like, swallowing the styrofoam.
Yes.
Which is probably what's happening. And like, is it hard for him not to eat the rest of the styrofoam in his shoe when he gets hungry?
Right.
But he has to keep the disguise up. These are the questions we need the answers to. And for the first time, we get the curse.
Yes. He says, well, he mumbles, "Oh, sticks," and then thunder rolls across the clear sky. Which is that's kind of our first little indication that like camp can't really get weather, and so you'll hear the thunder, but it won't actually result in an actual thunderstorm or rain that comes down on the camp. Which it's kind of fun to be able to like pick up on those little nuggets, those little Easter eggs where you don't fully know what that means, and until it's explained later on.
And then Percy, again, wanting to live in denial, is getting shaken out of it. And he says, well, that settles it. Grover was a satyr. I'm like, honey, we know. We know, everybody knows. Like,
yes. You saw him without pants on. You saw his shaggy hindquarters, as you said.
You did.
Like, it was
you
settled
smelled him, like
previously, but I understand.
And he says, I was ready to bet that if I shaved his curly brown hair, I'd find tiny horns on his head, which is, like, adorable.
That's
like,
so cute to imagine. Yeah.
Also, just, like, Percy shaving his curly brown hair. It's funny to imagine. But then I also thought, good memory, Percy. Like, Percy was a good student to remember that satyr has horns.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's cute.
He was.
And then he says, but I was too miserable to care that satyrs existed or even minotaurs.
Yeah.
All that meant was my mom really had been squeezed into nothingness, dissolved into yellow light. And here comes a very valid thought process from Percy.
A paragraph where I just basically was like, this is so real and relatable and exactly where your mind would go in this moment.
Yep, I'm like, this is it. I was alone, an orphan. I would have to live with smelly Gabe? No, that would never happen. I would live on the streets first. I would pretend I was 17 and join the army. I'd do something. And I'm like, yep. Like, when faced with an abusive, alcoholic, terrible step-parent, you would.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think, like from kind of the description of Sally and her life, and then you kind of get the sense from Percy's upbringing that while he always had a place to live, there was still a sense of like, okay, we're like, there's some financial struggles, so Percy would be very familiar with like, okay, like the reality of when bad things happen, and so I think would have the brain to jump to, what does this mean for me? So what do I need to go and do to make sure that like my reality doesn't get even worse than it potentially could?
It also makes you think of the story we'll learn about Talia and Luke and Annabeth and like how easy it is for demigod kids to end up living on the streets because they're dealing with monsters. They're dealing with parents who can't, navigate the challenges and aren't willing to step up and like be responsible and be supportive or have mental health issues that are really intense. Like there's so many things in those stories that are like, and that's such an important analog to, our real world, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Percy's kind of going down this really, really logical thought process that I think you would when faced with this kind of scenario. And he doesn't know that he's home yet. Like he doesn't know he's at the place that will become home. And I think there's something about this transition period where he's grappling with the grief and the loss of his mom. He doesn't know where he is yet. You know, he hasn't felt that like welcoming, other than the little drink umbrella, I think, is like that first little welcoming, like that. But yeah, he doesn't know he's home yet. So he's really thinking he's on his own now. And Grover is just still beating himself up.
And then, okay, I want to ask Rick Riordan if this next line was an intentional pun or not. Because he says, the poor kid, poor goat, satyr, whatever, looked as if he expected to be hit, which that last
has
bit.
To be, right?
But because a kid, like, he had to say poor kid specifically because a kid is a baby goat. Like,
is a baby goat.
It's got to be an intentional pun, right? Like,
if it's not, it's the best unintentional pun ever. Yeah. I hope it is. I also think it's funny how like Grover and Percy are still in this role reversal they're constantly going between of like feeling sort of like the responsible one back and forth with each other.
Yep, totally.
But yeah, I hope that's an intentional
it's like
pun.
Kind of a funny pun, and then just the most heartbreaking end to that sentence, saying that Grover looked as if he expected to be hit. Like, my God, that's just like, that like hits you in the gut to read that, you know, Grover was like expecting this kind of like outpouring of rage from Percy, that like Percy would take it out on him, and it, to me, it just shows how much Grover is beating his own self up, that he's expecting basically for someone else to do it physically to him because he's already doing it to himself emotionally.
I feel like the other like sad layer to this is that like Percy even knows what that looks like for a kid to think they're gonna get hit. Like, I feel like that just tells you about Percy's experience too, that's where his brain would go. Yeah. And I think that just tells us that he's been hit before. Yeah. You know, which we assume, but like I don't think we have as explicitly.
No, not yet.
So that's sad, but then so compassionately, so lovingly, Percy says, "It wasn't your fault." Yeah. Such a sweet moment.
In the midst of his own just immense, like immeasurable grief, to be able to say it wasn't your fault is just like, that's such a beautiful thing. That's such a compassionate and kind thing to in his own moment of probably the most emotional pain and hurt he's ever been in, to reach out and give kindness to someone else. Totally, because he can tell that Grover, I mean, he literally says it, that he's a failure, and it's very clear that Grover's completely blaming himself, and like it's not his fault that the way that the car flipped, he happened to get knocked unconscious. Like, that's just literally not his fault.
That could have happened to any of them. Totally.
It could have happened to Percy, it could have happened to Sally. Like, it's not his fault what happened, and it's
and Grover's not a demigod.
Like,
he doesn't have magical powers beyond the power of the panpipe. Like, he doesn't have, you know, like,
well, you know, not yet. He'll get some more later.
But I'm just saying, you know, when Percy, I was just thinking Percy hits his head too, and I'm like, it could be that being part God helps him be a little bit more able to take a hit like that and not pass out.
He's got a higher HP hit point level.
Yeah, it's like a thicker God skull or something. And then Grover says, "Yes, it was. I was supposed to protect you." And Percy is still not understanding the situation and where he is. He says, "Did my mother ask you to protect me?" I think he's still kind of like, how do you two know each other? Like, he's still kind of stuck on that.
Understandably.
And he says, "No, but that's my job. I'm a keeper. At least I was." And you're like, "No, Grover, no."
I know.
Oh, buddy. And then Percy's like, "But why?" And then he suddenly feels dizzy. His vision is swimming. And Grover is being very kind back to him. "Don't strain yourself here." And he helps hold Percy's glass and put the straw in his lips, which is just like such a sweet, tender moment between them. I think it's so nurturing. Like, between Grover and Annabeth, Grover is just being so much more nurturing in this moment. Not just like shoving something in his mouth. true to characters. And then it's interesting. He's expecting apple juice, but what he gets is liquid chocolate chip cookies from his mom.
I have always wanted to taste what liquid chocolate chip cookies, like ever since I first read this paragraph where it says it was chocolate chip cookies, liquid cookies, and not just any cookies, my mom's homemade blue chocolate chip cookies, buttery and hot with the chip still melting. I have just forever wanted to be able to taste that, to be able to drink something and have it taste like that ever since I read this paragraph. Because then it goes on to say, drinking it, my whole body felt warm and good, full of energy. My grief didn't go away, but I felt as if my mom had just brushed her hand against my cheek, given me a cookie the way she used to when I was small, and told me everything was going to be okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel good on the inside to read that paragraph.
It really does.
It's so cozy. It's so sweet. I love that, like, he can taste the blue in them.
Yeah. That he knows. Like, they're not just any.
That he knows.
They're her blue ones.
Yeah. And this is our first nectar, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And interesting that it can taste hot even when, you know,
it's cold.
It has ice cubes in it. Yep. Also, why does it have ice cubes in it? I'm just curious, like, the decision. I think Argus just wanted to be fancy.
Yeah. He wanted to be like, here's something nice.
Pop these in here.
Yeah.
Just a little something.
Have you ever thought about what your nectar would taste like?
That is a really good question.
Because I have, and I've never been
cozy,
sure.
soothing taste.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that. I definitely think it would probably similarly to Percy be some kind of baked good. Like maybe
pie.
A Christmas shoofly pie, or yours could be the chocolate marshmallow cookies.
Oh, the chocolate marshmallow cookies. Yeah.
I feel like that could be possible for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could also see mine being something blueberry because I really like blueberries, like a blueberry pie. I could see something like that.
Or like the best like blueberry muffin.
Yeah. I also really like cinnamon.
A cinnamon roll nectar that just tastes like the best cinnamon roll in the world.
Like that could definitely be a thing. That might need to be my thing. I think maybe a cinnamon roll.
Yours. Cinnamon roll. Yeah.
I could just eat. Not like the cinnamon challenge type. Don't do that. Don't try that at home, kids. But you know, like just anything cinnamon can never have enough cinnamon for me. So might need to be that.
Well, if anyone wants to share what your nectar what you think your nectar would taste like,
please do.
Because I think I remember reading that and then immediately in my brain going, what would mine taste like?
Yeah, totally. 100%. I think we landed on some good ones. Yeah.
I just desperately wanted this world to be real and for me to be in it. So I was like, what are all my 100%. Things in this world?
I totally could handle it because I'm a demigod too.
Yep.
Yeah, share it in the comments below or in your review on the podcast apps because we want to know everybody's nectar flavors. It also makes me want to like somehow make a chocolate chip, like a liquid chocolate chip cookie, because that also sounds really good. Like I love chocolate chip cookies in all forms, cookie dough, just made cookies. So I don't know, like something that would be a warm drink that would taste like it sounds really, really good. So maybe this winter I need to work on that.
Yeah, I need to start experimenting, see if you can make that.
Gotta do that. We need to make the food of the world. And Percy certainly likes it because before he knew, he drains the glass and stares into it because he just had a warm drink, but there are still ice cubes that hadn't even melted because they didn't need to be there anyway. I feel like nectar doesn't even like interact with other substances. It just sort of like stays immutably its own thing. So like it couldn't melt the ice cubes even if, you know, they were meltable.
Totally.
And then Grover is like us. He's like, what does it taste like? I want some, but I don't want to burn up alive. So what did it taste like? He sounded so wistful. I felt guilty. Sorry, I said, I should have let you taste it. And then his eyes get wide and he's like, yeah, you would kill me.
Which, and again, this is just another moment where I'm like, Grover, don't go, no, that's not what I meant. I just wondered. I'm like, just
I know.
Give the poor boy a straight answer. Like,
nope,
no,
we're still not answering.
He's at Camp Half-Blood. He killed a Minotaur. He watched his mom disappear into golden light, and no one can give Percy a straight answer. And I'm like,
we're in the world now.
On.
We're
like,
the world.
Just tell him.
Yeah, but we won't. We will continue to talk about it, and we will not tell him. He's like, chocolate chip cookies, my mom's homemade, and Grover sighs. And how do you feel? And I like the answer. Like, I could throw Nancy Bobbitt 100 yards.
That's his, like, measure of how well he's doing is, like, I could only throw Nancy Bobbitt 1 yard. I could throw her 50 yards. I could throw her 100 yards. I'm
100
like,
ready
yards.
To go. That's his max throwing. And Grover is still not explaining anything. Says, that's good. I don't think you could risk drinking any more of that stuff. Which just the ominous sentences without explanation from
ominous. Because it's like, I just drank a whole glass. What do you mean I can't risk drinking any more of it? And then Percy literally asks, what do you mean? And Grover does not answer it. He just takes the empty glass back gingerly, as if it were dynamite, sets it back on the table, and then says, come on, Chiron and Mr. D are waiting. Which is just like...
like, Grover, answer one question ever.
Answer one question, please.
Answer one question ever.
Also, so interesting that he says Chiron. Like, it makes sense because they're at camp, but Percy would not know who that is. He does not know who that is.
No, he would not.
Right now.
No, he would
so
not.
It's also not a helpful thing to say, because Percy would be like, who are those two people? I don't know.
Who are you talking about?
And
then we get a description of the big house as being a farmhouse. The porch wrapped all the way around the farmhouse, which is fun.
Which love a full wraparound porch.
Love a full wraparound porch. Agreed. 100%. Percy's legs feel wobbly trying to walk that far, so he's still struggling from this monster encounter. Like, he is not doing well, even with ambrosia, even with nectar. I don't think he could actually throw Nancy Bobbitt 100 yards
Probably
based
not.
on not being able to walk around a porch. But, I love the confidence. And this is interesting. Grover's offering to carry the Minotaur horde, which I'm like, Grover just wants to touch it. He just wants to hold it still. He's like, I know I gave this to you, but like, it's really cool. So like, could I hold it for a little bit longer?
But then Percy says, I'd paid for that souvenir the hard way. I wasn't going to let it go. Which is just another little painful reminder of Sally, just like, and the weight that this Minotaur horn is going, like, emotionally is going to hold until we finally reach the end of the book and we discover she's alive and she hasn't been dead, and it's what a relief. But that up until that point, this Minotaur horn basically just like represents Sally's death, I feel like.
Yeah. Which I think is like tricky because it's also Percy's like most heroic accomplishment at this point, but it came with such a sacrifice and he's not thinking of it that way yet, of course, but we get to the other side and then we're still sort of like laying the foundation for how great the Camp Half-Blood vibes
just
are.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
On the other side of the house, the valley marched all the way up to the water, which glittered about a mile in the distance. And I feel like the fact that Percy's like drawn to the water makes so much sense. And, he's just like seeing it as so magical.
Yep. And I love this description of the valley marched all the way up to the water. Like, not like it went all the way up, it extended, but like, I kind of love the use of marched as that descriptor there, especially in like a camp. The Greek camp is obviously not militarized in the way that we'll learn that the Roman one is, but
but
I
it's
like
militarized there's weapons.
Yes, there are weapons. They might not be as,
there's
like
weapons.
rank and file organized as the Romans are, but I do kind of love, because of the context of Camp Half-Blood and what happens there, using that description of the valley marching all the way up to the water.
Totally. And I love, Percy can't process what he's seeing because the landscape is dotted with buildings that look like ancient Greek architecture, an open air pavilion, an amphitheater, a circular arena, except they all look brand new with their white marble columns sparkling in the sun. I just, we're starting to get that blending of worlds that is so iconic of this series. We have the Greek architecture, but then we also have the Long Island Sound and the rolling hills, and it just, it feels so nostalgic reading this part.
It does. And then it goes on to say, in a nearby sand pit, a dozen high school-aged kids and satyrs played volleyball. Canoes glided across a small lake. Kids in bright orange t-shirts like Grover's were chasing each other around a cluster of cabins nestled in the woods. Some shot targets at an archery range. Others rode horses down a wooded trail. And unless I was hallucinating, some of their horses had wings.
You are not, sir. You are not hallucinating, and we are excited for the Pegasi.
This description really feels like the camp part of Camp Half-Blood. You know, like it truly feels like, though I have never personally been to a summer camp, it feels like a real description of a summer camp, you know? And like that, like playing volleyball, canoeing on the lake, like chasing each other around the woods, even fun things like having archery, or, you know, that right now he doesn't necessarily know is like training archery for killing monsters. You know, like it all feels like horseback riding. It just feels like fun things you'd hear about doing at a summer camp that you went to.
For sure. I do love that it gets like more and more strange though, or intense as you go. Like it's like volleyball. Okay, yeah. Right. We know this. You know, canoeing. Okay. Yeah. You know, we upped it a little bit. But then by the end we're like, horses with wings. It's like, oh, okay, magical camp. Yeah. Like, this isn't just your average summer camp.
And then we see that down at the end of the porch, two men sat across from each other at a card table, and the blonde-haired girl who'd spoon-fed Percy popcorn-flavored pudding was leaning on the porch rail next to them. And I do very quickly want to say, for our audio listeners, I am wearing my best Hawaiian shirt in honor of the character we are about to meet, one Mr. D. So yeah, hence the little get-up today.
In theme. I love it. I absolutely love it. Because it's just nothing more classic than that Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. He's always rocking them.
He's always rocking them. And, okay, so we looked this up ahead of the episode of Dionysus and how he's described in other, like Greek mythology, or how he was depicted over time. And this is the part of the episode where, again, we're like, don't do fat phobia, kids, / writers. PSA. Because, you know, I think, especially in the early 2000s, you know, he's described here as small but porky. And in general, the word porky is used a lot to describe him. And I think that just like has a stereotypical connotation with a negative image of a person in a larger body. We talked about this in a previous episode. Oftentimes in writing, that's like using someone in a larger body is a shortcut for like being able to use stereotypes to negatively portray them. Mr. D is obviously not the greatest person, and also fits into the stereotype around the sort of like gluttony stereotype of the drinking and excess and things like that, which is very part of Dionysus's backstory. Absolutely. But as far as we can find, he is never portrayed in a larger body in the mythology. I think you found something where he was like described as like more of the cherub piece here is describing him. Like
traditionally, and this is again from an incredibly quick Google search. So I'm not trying to say that, you know, I like dove deep into every source available, but from a very quick Google search found that kind of in ancient Greece, he was traditionally first depicted as a bearded man, and then the depictions were as kind of a young, more effeminate man. And so for me in reading this passage, like I think you could, that kind of the youthful depiction that it seems like maybe came a little bit later, you can absolutely have in describing him as that, those little baby angels, the cherubs, like a man who's also, you know, like round and childlike,
like baby face.
I think if you took out Porky in this like paragraph, then you'd just have a description of Mr. D, you know, and it would conjure the same, for me as a reader, in my head, visual depiction of what he looks like, but without the negative connotations that Porky's automatically going to come with. And so it also just felt like a paragraph where I was like, well, you've got everything else. Like, you don't have to throw that one in there. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think stuff like this can get better over time with authors as they learn and grow. Yeah. You know, there's room for grace there. And like, to be clear, living in a fat body, like, is a valid thing that should not be stigmatized. Like, is just body diversity. And what we're saying is that there are ways in which, obviously, fat phobia as an oppressive structure stigmatizes and stereotypes larger bodies that we don't agree with, and that is just used in writing to portray people in negative ways. Right. But as a neutral descriptor, that's just saying someone is tall or short. And it should be as neutral as that, ideally.
Yes, yeah. It should be as neutral as that, and the word, like, the descriptor of a character's body and their body type should not then inherently link to their, like, morality of their, like, character as a person, of who they are and their worth. And here, I think 100%. If you took Porky out, you'd have a description of Mr. D and what he looks like, and then you'd find out, as you get to know him in the chapter, maybe not the greatest guy. And there wouldn't be this inherent tying of body type to, are you a good person or not? It would just be,
especially when you combine that. Yeah, exactly. When you combine that with other negative descriptions, which we're going to even get to more, I think that's where you get, like, okay, this is a pattern, right? Yeah. Where then the reader starts to link that. And like we've talked about, that damaged, like, our experiences of ourselves growing up as kids. Like, this does impact readers, and especially when you're forming your identity and your experience of the world, how you perceive others, how you perceive yourself. It matters. It makes an impact. And like the chapter keeps saying, words have power. So we got to be mindful of that. Yes. But other than that, we have a red nose, big watery eyes, curly hair so black it was almost purple, which I think is a really interesting description of his hair. And then, oh my God, just so funny that Percy can't think of the word cherub. He says he looked like those paintings of baby angels. What do you call them? Hubbubs? No, cherubs. And I was like, Percy.
It's like another, like, little fourth wall break moment, or / where we're really just, like, getting his pure train of thought of being like, you look like those baby angels. Oh, I can't think of what they're called. You know, like, I love that we get that split second of, I can't remember what those baby angels are called. And we first get hubbubs, and then we get cherubs.
I, like, want them to be hubbubs now. That's adorable.
Right? That's very cute. And then he goes, that's it. He looked like a cherub who turned middle age in a trailer park.
And we could go on a tangent about throwing in trailer parks as, like, I think also maybe using that in more of a derogatory way when, like, there's nothing bad about living in a trailer park. He wore a tiger patterned Hawaiian shirt, and you have your palm patterned, shall we say?
Palm patterned, yes, yeah.
Hawaiian
with a bit of orange to also represent Camp Half-Blood, because we're finally getting the orange of Camp Half-Blood.
I love that.
You know, a little bit of both.
I love that. Worlds. Very festive, and he would have fit right in at one of Gabe's poker parties, which is interesting and also, like, brings those parallels. Except that I got the feeling this guy could have outgambled even my stepfather, and I think that is 100% true. And I do think Absolutely that the Mr. D versus Gabe matchup is maybe the matchup we miss most in the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
And would be another really cool way to put Gabe in his place. Is just throw Mr. D at him.
Maybe that's what when Gabe, like, goes to Hades, maybe that's just what he's constantly reliving as Mr. D comes down and just kind of is like,
love that idea.
Constantly putting him in his place in a poker game.
I almost wish we had, like, seen that in a future book.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. Just like Mr. D insulting him and beating him at poker.
Yeah. But then coming back and calling Percy like Peter Johnson, in
Absolutely.
the classic Mr. D way of like, he does
this
care,
isn't
but he
for
also
Percy.
is a jerk. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just because it's fun to mess with people. And I'm sure Gabe would have very satisfying reactions to being messed with for someone who is more powerful than him.
Yeah.
And then we get a name. I mean, we've heard this name, but we get to know who Mr. D is. So Grover says, it's Mr. D. He's the camp director. Be polite. And I'm like, yeah, because he's a god. So he can mess you up for sure. Yeah.
But again,
advice,
like,
Grover.
Be polite. Let's give the context for that. This isn't just, you should be polite to a man. This is, you should be polite because he's a god.
Yeah, because he could, kill you with the snap of his fingers.
Right. Turn you into a dolphin,
Also, advice that Percy will not listen to, for the record. Like,
absolutely not. Yeah.
Not even for a second. And then the girl, that's Annabeth Chase. Here we go. We have a name. And you already know Chiron, which is just, again, Grover. It's like, he doesn't know that this is Chiron. Like, you could just be like, and Mr. Chiron, who you know is Mr. Brunner, or whatever, But I'm like, come on, man. But it's so that we get this reveal. First, I realized he was sitting in the wheelchair. Then I recognized the tweed jacket, the thinning brown hair, the scrabbly beard. Mr. Brunner, I cried. And I just kind of love that Percy seems really happy to see him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's that, like, everything has been so unfamiliar, even though, like, the meadow's beautiful and calm and, the energy is nice. He's just in a fully and completely unfamiliar place. And while Grover is obviously familiar, Grover has kind of, I feel like to a certain extent, become just a little bit unfamiliar through the fact that Percy thought he was his human best friend, and he's now found out, okay, he's a satyr, and that's been like fully confirmed when Percy is of conscious mind. So I think in this moment it feels like Percy's like, oh my gosh, okay, someone that I really truly know. And then at the end of the chapter he's going to realize, I don't actually know this man all that well.
Yeah, just wait, Percy. Nothing is as it seems. The Latin teacher turned and smiled at me, which I think will be like the last time he gets called the Latin teacher. And I love that his eyes had that mischievous glint they sometimes got in class when he pulled a pop quiz and made all the multiple choice answers B.
Which, can I just say, like, love you, Chiron, but also the way that if I had been a student in that class, I would have lost my mind and had a panic attack about a pop quiz. Yep. Where 100%. All the answers would be.
It's funny when we're now not in school, but if I think about me in school wanting to do
deeply
well in
not
school,
funny.
Terrifying. Yeah. Not a good joke. This is not funny. But I also do wonder if like the answers would be B because his name was Mr. Brunner, and that's not even his name.
Totally.
And so he's just like doing B for Brunner.
Right. No, absolutely. And I love again I love these little moments in the writing style that remind us that like we're in Percy's head getting his point of view by like him calling him the Latin teacher, like and as we kind of
and giving this the chapter even.
Absolutely, like we'll kind of get the like transition of his name that will he will refer to him in various different ways that just feels like you're following along in Percy's brain as he's kind of like slowly trying to understand this world and mesh like the man that he knows as Latin teacher with the centaur that he actually is.
Right. He's like adjusting in real time, and we get that transition. And then he says, "Oh, good, Percy. Now we have 4 for Pinochle." And I love that that's like his, that's his focus. Like, we're playing a game right now. Like, that's really what's important here, not like anything else going on.
Right. Not explaining
relevant to the current moment.
Where you are, what happened, what's going on. It's just, no, we're playing a card game. Great, we needed a 4th.
Well, even let's also add on to this.
Annabeth is right there.
You don't know.
They have 4 people. Annabeth is standing right there.
That's true. That's true. That's honestly rude to Annabeth. She's like, hold up.
Like, he's about to send her off, but I'm just like, you had 4 people. You didn't need Percy.
You're right. That's kind of cold. Poor Annabeth.
I know.
Maybe canonically Annabeth does not like Pinochle, and Chiron knows that and isn't going to mess with her.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully.
Maybe. So he offers Percy a chair to the right of Mr. D, who looks at him with bloodshot eyes and a heavy sigh and says, "Oh, I suppose I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. There. Now don't expect me to be glad to see you." And I'm like, you know, in Harry Potter, you have Dumbledore.
Right.
And I mean, that's basically like Chiron, right? But like the person in charge of all the things is like kind and compassionate and warm and cozy and friendly. And you just like trust him to have your back. Not so no. Here. You don't trust the people in charge.
Nope.
And it goes along really well with the themes of the book around like the gods being, you know, flaky and immature and all the things. But I do think there's something in me that's always like a little unsettled at the idea that like your place where you're like, I love to return here, but dang, the guy in charge, I just can't stand him and he can't stand me. Not a great start for Percy. Not a great setup here. Imagine the kids who come and he's like, also, I'm your dad.
I know.
That is a rough awakening.
You know, but that's why I do like in the 5th book, where I think it's the 5th book and not the 4th book. I'm pretty sure it's after the battle at Olympus, like in New York City, and not the Battle of the Labyrinth. I'm pretty sure it's in the 5th book, where we have that scene where Mr. D is like genuinely worried for his kids and asking like where they are and how they're doing. I do appreciate that we get that moment where it's like he really does care. He's got this exterior that he like you know, puts on, and he is being a jerk, you know. Like there's no there's that is what his behavior is. But I do appreciate that we get to see that like he does really care for his kids, you know, and he's not so much of a jerk that like he's forgotten that they existed.
Totally. Or like doesn't care for them at all. And like he is being punished by being here, which he will explain. Like there is an element to this where he's like, I don't want to be here. Right. And that's kind of valid too. Like no one wants to be imprisoned anywhere, much less a camp of like pre-adolescent and adolescent kids. Like that might not be
middle
the
school
most
and high schoolers, arguably like the worst ages to be around.
And then they can like do magic. It's like like not his vibe. He can't, you know, drink his wine, which he loves. He's the wine god. He can't drink wine. It's just it's not the funnest time for him. Doesn't excuse his behavior, but you know, he's not having a great time overall. But again, like Zeus, like what are you doing? You know, clearly not caring about the kids. If this is like, oh, that would be funny, I'll make the punishment that you have to go take care of these kids. Not thinking like, oh, that would be miserable for the kids themselves.
Not thinking, oh, maybe the kids deserve a camp director who's going to be invested in them, you know. And I mean,
Zeus really is like a reality show producer. He's like, you know what would be really funny next season? If we give them Dionysus as the head of the camp, that would really stir things up.
That's what happens when you're an immortal being who's been alive for thousands of years. You get bored and you have to.
The world is just your plaything. You need your TV. You need your show. Your regularly scheduled programming. And then I think it's like really interesting here. Percy is very astute and he good instincts again. He scoots a little farther away from him because if there's one thing I had learned from living with Gabe, it was how to tell when an adult had been hitting the happy juice. If Mr. D was a stranger to alcohol, I was a satyr. Which first, I love that Percy has already transitioned into thinking about the world in this way. That he's like, satyrs are real. And that's the joke I'm going to make right now. But also like, this is a very real thing. Another reason this guy should not be in charge of the camp, probably. But you know, his instincts are spot on here. And then Chiron calls to Annabeth, though we're still calling him Mr. Brunner as the narrator, which is interesting.
And I love that of like, because we're still fully in Percy's, like Percy is our narrator, and so to him, well, as of right now, and no one, like Grover says you already know Chiron, but like we haven't actually like had an introduction. And so I love that. It doesn't just switch to Chiron because Grover said Chiron. We don't get that switch until Percy has fully adjusted to Mr. Brunner was a pseudonym. His name is actually Chiron.
Totally. So she comes forward and Chiron says, "This young lady nursed you back to health, Percy. Annabeth, my dear, why don't you go check on Percy's bunk? We'll be putting him in cabin 11 for now." And Annabeth says, "Sure, Chiron." And I feel like that sure is sarcastic. Like, I don't think she wants to leave this conversation. She's like, I need information. I need details. I want to be part of this. You didn't even invite me to the Pinochle game. Like, I was standing here this whole time. What is happening? And then we get a description of Annabeth.
Yes. It says, "She was probably my age, maybe a couple of inches taller, and a whole lot more athletic looking. With her deep tan and curly blonde hair, she was almost exactly what I thought a stereotypical California girl would look like, except her eyes ruined the image. They were startling gray, like storm clouds, pretty but intimidating too, as if she were analyzing the best way to take me down in a fight." Which she probably was doing.
Yeah, I just wrote
part of her brain was, she was like probably analyzing, okay, do I think he's the one? And then also, how would I take him down in a fight? And like, she's got like 10 things going on at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, it's just reflex at this point. Like, she's not looking at anyone without analyzing how she would take them down in a fight. Yeah. But I do like so if you're familiar with Greek mythology in any way, I think it's fun to get like the clues and the hints, and so the gray eyes are very classic, and I think that's a fun thing where if you were trying to piece it together, like you could piece that one together. And even just that description of that she's analyzing him immediately is like, okay, for the child of a god who's going to be analytical, especially about how to take someone down in a fight, like, okay, like strategic, like there's like two options. You've got Ares, you've got Athena, right? But when you add the gray eyes, done, sealed. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
It's almost like she was wearing an owl necklace. Would have been, just as direct.
And then she glances down at the Minotaur horn, and Percy's like ready for her to say, like, "You killed a Minotaur. Wow, you're so awesome," or something like that. And instead, like, she hits him with the very classic Annabeth line of "You drool when you sleep," and then she sprints off. Which I just love, that she is so her from the start, and that they're both kind of like in their own ways sassy kind of characters.
Totally.
Like, she's never going to direct it to a Greek god, but she will direct it towards Percy, and like, and I love that, like, they both have that kind of like little like fun flair to their characters.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes them both butt heads and then also really respect each other and get along later is like, they're both not going to take anything from anybody. And also just this line, I feel like there's certain lines in books that are just very like nostalgic because you associate them with characters or character introductions. And the "you drool when you sleep" is just like, I felt I was like, we're at Camp Half-Blood. We're reading the books. Like, these two.
I know. Like, also, because you're like, you're going to fall in love and you don't even know it yet. Like,
it's like, this is the meet cute. It's like, you drool when you sleep. It's just so good. So good. Then she sprints off down the lawn because she is, as we learned, athletic. Her blonde hair flying behind her.
Yes, and Mr. Brunner, actually Chiron, actually does an introduction because Percy calls him Mr. Brunner, and then he goes, "No, not Mr. Brunner," and then the narration goes, "The ex Mr. Brunner said," which just so funny.
I know, I love that.
Again, I love that we just in all of these things are going to get these like transitions of his name, and then he says, "I'm afraid there was a pseudonym."
And the commentary.
Mm-hmm. You may call me Chiron. And Percy's fully confused, which what I am so curious to know is, and maybe we will get this because I don't remember, but like at any point in his own class, did Mr. Brunner have to be like, and there was a centaur who trained all the greatest heroes? Like, did he ever have to give like a lecture on himself, essentially?
Oh, that would be so funny. And his name was Chiron, and he was the bravest of all the centaurs, and the most handsome. Ruggedly so. And all the heroes wanted to train with him. Oh, I could just see it. I feel like he would totally talk himself up.
Well, but then I feel like about 3/4 of the way through, he'd get really sad because it'd be like fun for a little while.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like he'd have this moment where, you know, he gets that like, my eyes have seen thousands of years and I'm really sad.
100%.
And I'm now like 100%. Back in that time where, you know,
the number of heroes who have died on my watch. Like,
yes. Yeah. And then, you know, he maybe pulls the sword out and goes, what ho? Name all the heroes I mean Chiron trained.
Break. Yep. Run and write Latin on the board. I'm getting sad.
And then Percy turns to Mr. D and goes, and Mr. D, does that stand for something? Again,
right.
Percy's at this point I'm like, okay, Percy, we're not really putting 2 and 2 together and making 4. Like, you know, like you saw Minotaur, Grover's a satyr, like you heard the name Chiron, but we're not really at the place of being able to go, 2 + 2 = 4. Mr. D,
Chiron's over here like,
Dionysus.
I thought I taught you things. Like, were you paying attention? Like, were you listening? I trained you for this.
Yeah.
But again, we get so Mr. D stops shuffling cards, looks at Percy and belches loudly and says, young man, names are powerful things. So again, names are powerful. Right. You don't go around using them for no reason. And he's like, oh, right, sorry, which might be the most contrite he will be to Mr. D in the entire series.
Well, there is one more part a little later in this chapter where I think it's like the true one moment of like, oh, Percy kind of takes a step back. True. I feel like here there's still a little hint of sarcasm because it's like, this is again just the most vague statement in the world. Like, names have power. You don't just go around using them for no reason. Like, he's just asking you to introduce yourself, like being like, what does Mr. D stand for? You know,
like imagine if you went up and you were like, hi, my name is Anna. What's your name? And then the other person just says, names have power.
Right. You don't go around using them for no reason. It's like, what do you mean by that?
What does that mean?
Yeah. And then we get the kind of like little reveal that at this point Chiron has become Chiron Brunner, kind of like a hyphenated name situation. He says, it's been a long time since I've made a house call to a potential camper. Which I was then very curious for what was the last, like who was the last camper that
I wrote that too.
Made a house call to, you know, like, because I think if it had been Talia, I don't know if he would have said it's been a long time. Like,
same. And I think from their story, it wouldn't have been Talia. Like, from what we know of that story.
Because they were on the run. I wanted to know that long. Too. Yeah, I was really curious, like, who was the last one? Because realistically, he probably only ends up making house calls, even if he doesn't know at the time, for children of the big 3. So I'm like, before Talia, it was Nico and Bianca, but they were in Italy before them being, you know, like kind of tucked away.
But then they were in the
But they came to the U.S. and Hades put them at the Lotus Casino.
But he doesn't go to the Lotus Casino.
So I'm like, it predates Nico. Like, it would you know, so then I'm kind of like, are we even going back to like the explanation for why the Civil War, like the demigod explanation for the Civil War, you know? And was it a house call like way back then, potentially?
Yeah. It probably was like a little one-room schoolhouse kind of house call, and Chiron's just up there teaching. What did he use before wheelchairs were invented?
Oh, well, I mean, wheelchairs have been around for it just would have been
I know a long time, but I'm thinking like back before.
No, that's true. Way back, yeah, when it was like.
Also, was Chiron hanging out in like Spain and France?
Oh, well, I think so. In the part where he says, like, where he refers to it as, like, we always move, I was like, oh my gosh, that means Chiron. Because Camp Half-Blood would have moved with the gods as well. So that means Chiron absolutely, was in France and Spain and England, like, before the U.S.
I want to, like, see him there.
I know. I feel like it'd be fun to get a little, like, story of, like, Chiron through the ages, of, like...
Oh,
like Chiron and all those
he's
different
just like eating
like,
pate
times and places. Yeah,
like
yeah.
And, like, I don't know, pretzels. I don't know enough about Germany. I'm
maybe
sorry,
like I feel like I could
German
see him
listeners.
hanging out with Shakespeare, like in England.
Ooh,
like I 100%. Feel like I could see him having known Shakespeare.
Shakespeare,
like, absolutely
to be or not
child
to be
of Apollo,
Chiron,
right? Like Shakespeare, child of Apollo.
Oh, for sure.
Right, so like I feel
there
like
is no other answer for Shakespeare. Yeah, for many reasons.
yeah. So I feel like he probably like knew Shakespeare when he was like 12. Like at whatever the version of camp was then in England.
Funny. The idea of Shakespeare being trained by Chiron, so funny.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, I love that.
Okay,
we need all of these.
I know. Okay, again, but back to
the actual text in front of us, not the text that we want to be written.
We keep on creating, yes. So Percy goes house call, like essentially, what does that mean? And then Chiron says, my year at Yancey Academy to instruct you. We have satyrs at most schools. Again, wild, so many satyrs. To
so
cover
many.
kind of like the United States with being able to see if satyrs at most schools. And they're there, of course, keeping a lookout. But Grover alerted me as soon as he met you. He sensed you were something special, so I decided to come upstate. Then he says, I convinced the other Latin teacher to take a leave of absence. So,
yeah, which, like, knows? That's ominous. Like, what is that?
Yeah, very ominous. Yeah. But very interesting that basically the moment Grover met Percy, he was like, there's something else going on here.
Yeah, he could smell it. But I love that Grover, I love the wording of like, Grover sensed you or something special. Just as like a best friend. I think that's so cute. Like, like, what made you want to be friends with Percy? It's like, oh, I sensed he was something special. I'm like, you're adorable.
Yeah.
It was so cutie.
And then Percy kind of takes a second and he's like trying to remember back to the beginning of the school year. It was so long ago. And then he does kind of have a fuzzy memory of just in that first week at Yancey, there being a different Latin teacher who then disappeared without explanation, which, again, I'm like, where is this Latin teacher? What happened to this Latin teacher?
It's very interesting and ominous.
And then Percy asks, you came to Yancey just to teach me? And then Chiron nods and says, honestly, I wasn't sure about you at first. We contacted your mother, let her know we were keeping an eye on you in case you were ready for Camp Half-Blood, which, but also I noted, like, kind of clarified, we were talking last episode about like what is that history, so we get that clarified here, that initial contact between Chiron and Sally was like beginning of the year at Yancey.
So this is when the Mythomagic cards get passed from Chiron to Sally. So she can study her monsters.
But then he says, but you still had so much to learn. But nevertheless, you made it here alive, and that's always the first test, which I thought was so interesting. For him to specifically say that's always the first test, because that feels like such a classic Greek myth, Greek hero thing to have to endure like a first trial, a first test to like prove your worth.
But that's like so intense to be like the first test is, can you make it here alive?
Right.
Like all the
do you survive?
Before about like dying, it's like, whoa. Like I didn't even know I was being tested. Like
right.
What?
Right. No, absolutely. And then Mr. D kind of interjects because he's just focused on the game. He doesn't really care about anything else that's happening. No. And is just trying to get Grover to play. And Grover's trembling. And at this point, Percy doesn't really understand why Grover is so afraid of Mr. D. Because he hasn't had his moment yet with Mr. D where he understands the power and the fact that he's a god. And Mr. D then turns to Percy and goes, "You do know how to play Pinochle." And Percy says, "I'm afraid not." And Mr. D goes, "I'm afraid not, sir." And Percy does repeat "sir." But in this moment, you can tell it's very unwillingly. You know, he doesn't actually want to say that to Mr. D.
He says, "I was liking the camp director less and less."
And then a very, very funny moment here, I think, from Mr. D of saying, "It is, along with gladiator fighting and Pac-Man, one of the greatest games ever invented by humans." Which, to like place gladiator fighting and Pac-Man as equally kind of like monumental, and then also Pinochle is like, these are the three greatest things ever.
This is why we are here. This is what we came for. Is relating to gladiator fighting and Pac-Man. And then Chiron's like, "I'm sure the boy can learn." And Percy's like, "Okay, sure. But what is this place? What am I doing here?" He's like, "Before we like act like everything's normal and nothing weird is happening, what are we doing?" And then he's slowly getting the Chiron. He's like, "Mr. Brun," he gets halfway through, and then Chiron.
Right.
"Why would you go to Yancey Academy just to teach me?" And then Mr. D, here with the sass all day, snorts and says, "I asked the same question." Which you're like, bro.
I know.
Oh my God, buddy. Oh my God. The camp director, he's dealing the cards, and then Grover is flinching every time one lands in the pile. And we don't know the relationship yet between Dionysus and the satyrs, and obviously there is like a really intense power dynamic there that we're going to learn about. But right now, it's like another thing where Grover's anxiety is kind of coming through, and we don't have like full context for it.
And then Chiron kind of smiles sympathetically at Percy. Percy says, "It was the way he used to in Latin class, as if to let me know that no matter what my average was, I was his star student. He expected me to have the right answer." I feel like this is a moment where Chiron's kind of going, "You have the 2 and you have the other 2. So what does 2 plus 2 make, Percy?" You know, like...
Yeah. But he's cutting him a little slack, or the benefit of the doubt, because he says, "Percy, did your mother tell you nothing?" And Percy remembers her sad eyes looking out at the sea. "She told me she was afraid to send me here, even though my father wanted her to. She said once I was here, I probably couldn't leave, and she wanted to keep me close to her." And then Mr. D is just over here with the, like, come back immediately. About the dead mom, says, "Typical." That's how they usually get killed. And then back to the important thing at hand, the Pinochle. "Young man, are you bidding or not?" Like, Mr. D. The tactlessness is off the charts.
Completely lacking any kind of compassion, like, or sense of understanding.
He's never heard the
you've
word.
Just gone through some deeply traumatic thing. You've lost your mom. You know, there's no understanding.
No. He's just basically like blaming Sally for her own death at this point with his sentence, which is rough. Yeah. And then he explains impatiently how you bid in Pinochle, which I kind of wish we got a description in the book, honestly. I would and then Chiron says, "I'm afraid there's too much to tell." And I'm like, yeah, because you haven't been telling him anything. So there's everything to tell. Like, you and Grover aren't saying anything. And then he says, "I'm afraid our usual orientation film won't be sufficient," which I think is just like, I love that they even like have an orientation film.
I know. But also, I do just want to say, I think this is probably somewhere between like the 4th to 6th time a character has told Percy, there's just too much to tell you. And before, it was like in these high stakes situations where I was like, okay, this makes sense. But now I just keep on coming back to, he's literally arrived at Camp Half-Blood. He's here.
Yeah. Also, like, we're sitting on a porch.
Right. We're on a porch. We're not in any like life or death situation. And he's literally sitting next to a god. I think now you have the time to tell him. Like, I think you have a minute to just kind of get into, even if it's just the basics, the 101 of it all. Like, you actually have the time now.
Yeah. You would think so. You would very much think so. And Chiron says, well, Percy, you know your friend Grover is a satyr. You know that you have killed a minotaur. No small feat either, lad. Which, the use of lad is funny here.
I know. I feel like that's like from the time he was in England, you know, like
100%. 100%. Maybe he was training Robin Hood. Who would Robin Hood be?
Oh.
Also Archer. So maybe there's all these Apollo kids happening. I don't know.
But I feel like Robin Hood is Hermes. To me, Robin Hood
I was
is
about
Hermes
to say.
Energy, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say Hermes
kid.
because the trickster.
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm,
totally.
Mm-hmm.
Just happens to be good with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
They really, they work well, those two. What you may not know is that great powers are at work in your life. Gods, the forces you call the Greek gods, are very much alive. And Percy's just waiting for someone to tell him this is like all a trick.
Yeah. To be like, psych, we're just kidding.
And then Mr. D yells about the Pinochle, oh, a royal marriage, trick, and cackles as he tallies up his points. I did look up what a royal marriage is in Pinochle.
Oh, okay, yes, please share.
It's when you have a king and queen of like a certain type of cards, and it gets you 40 points. Again, based on a very quick Google search, so don't come for me if I'm wrong. You can feel free to correct me there. But I thought that was kind of funny. And I don't really think we're referencing anything at this point. Like, I was like, is there any like Zeus Hera things happening here? But I don't really feel like there's anything. It's just happens to be a Pinochle thing.
Yeah.
And then Grover's so funny here.
Yeah. We get our first Grover with a can. The cans will become, very important, a staple, a comfort food, especially when he's anxious. So
Grover's nectar would taste like cans.
Yeah, it would. It would taste like a can. Or no, it would taste like enchiladas. I feel like
enchiladas. It would probably like be enchiladas.
His first...
Maybe the ambrosia could taste like cans.
Yeah. And Grover asks very timidly to Mr. D, if you're not going to eat it, could I have your Diet Coke can? Which I just want to be like, at no point, I'm sure, has Mr. D ever eaten a Diet Coke can,
No.
But Grover's putting on that 10 extra layers of politeness by being like, if you're not going to eat it, could I eat it?
Please, please, sir.
Yeah.
May I have one more can?
And Mr. D, truly not caring at all, goes, all right, not barely even processing that. And it says, Grover bit a huge shard out of the empty aluminum can and chewed it mournfully. I know.
It's like he's not even enjoying it.
Yeah. And then we get a very interesting discussion, both kind of like lore dropping for the world and how it functions, but then also a very interesting discussion. Because Percy goes, wait, I told Chiron, you're telling me there's such a thing as God with a capital G. And Chiron says, well now, God, capital G God, that's a different matter altogether. We shan't deal with the metaphysical. And Percy's still fully confused and goes, metaphysical, what you were just talking about. And Chiron goes on to explain, gods, plural, as in great beings that control the forces of nature and human endeavors, the immortal gods of Olympus. That's a smaller matter. And again, Percy's like, smaller? How? None of this is actually really making sense to Percy. I think this is such an interesting piece of this world, like differentiating like capital G God from, you know, any like religion, any like monotheistic religion from like lowercase g God in these, is that the right word? I said monotheistic. Is that I'm having a moment. Okay.
You did. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Poly
My brain
and
had a moment.
monotheistic are the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say versus polytheistic, and then I just had a moment where I went, is that the right word for it?
That is the right word.
But
based on a quick Google search, that is the right word. No.
But I do think it's really interesting in this world that there is this distinction between like a monotheistic religion and a monotheistic God being this more like kind of grander, bigger metaphysical thing, but these like polytheistic gods are kind of the like smaller undercurrent to like a larger metaphysical like capital G God. And I just think that's so interesting, especially because, you know, Rick Riordan expands on that where we meet like the Roman versions. And then we have like the Kane Chronicles and Magnus Chase, but then also his publishing imprint expands on that even more with all of these other authors like adding to all of the many polytheistic gods that exist in our world. And I just think it's so fun that all of that started from like this kind of one little moment